Good morning, Patriots. This is Praying Medic, and this is my QAnon broadcast for Monday, December 30th. I know I told you all in the last broadcast I would see you next year, but Q got a little busy yesterday, so we have another broadcast. Those of you following along at home, you can find Q posts on a number of different websites, including qmap.pub, qanon.news/Q. There is also qanon.pub and several other websites. If you have an Android device and you'd like to get Q updates on your phone or tablet, there are QMap, Q Alerts, and I believe the Q Drops app is still available for Android. There are no Q Alert apps for iOS at this time. My theme for this broadcast is The Silent War Continues. Ever since he came down the elevator and promised to drain the swamp, corrupt people in positions of power around the world have understood that Donald Trump represents an existential threat to them. Since he signed the executive order on December 21st, 2017, on human rights abuse, human trafficking, and corruption, many CEOs have resigned from their companies. Actually, Eric Schmidt resigned from his position with Google the same day that executive order was signed. The removal of rogue CIA agents from North Korea enabled the president to meet with Chairman Kim to start peace talks. We still don't have a nuclear disarmament or denuclearization treaty with North Korea, and that fact demonstrates the reality of the battle between good and evil. Thanks to the prayers and support of patriots around the world, President Trump has made a lot of progress in removing corruption, but there is a lot of work yet to be done. This is the first post from Q yesterday morning. No Republican option in California when registering to vote. Welcome to the D Party Con, Q. So there's this image that Q posted, which has the outside of the voter registration envelope. Options there: American Independent, Democrat, Libertarian, and there is no option for Republican, at least on the outside of the envelope. So let's see, Sean Phillip Hall posted a picture of his envelope, voting envelope, and you can see there are four options: nonpartisan, American Independent, Democrat, and Libertarian. No Republican option, at least on the outside. And let's see, Eat Crow, Demo Rats posted this image, same choices on the outside. Q then responded: Democrat Party election interference, Democrat Party corruption, Q. And Anon posted these images on the board. These were actually originally posted on Twitter by Lanny Mack, showing that you can register as a Republican, but it requires extra steps. He says, okay, this is nuts. I received this in the mail. Note on the outside there is no choice to pick Republican. But if you open it up, oh look, there it is. There's the Republican option on the inside, and you actually have to go through a few extra steps to register. So Q responded, the point being many R's are confused. Republicans must go through additional hoops in order to vote Republican Party registration. What percentage of these are not mailed back? What percentage is supposedly lost? What percentage are delayed? And what percent are returned with Democrat unchanged? Good question. Maybe the Democrats in California set it up that way, thinking that fewer people would register if the process was confusing. Okay, Anon Monkey Man posted a video. Let's listen to this.
Of DNC staffer Seth Rich, who was murdered last summer. A federal investigator telling Fox News that an FBI forensic report of Rich's computer showed he made contact with WikiLeaks through a former reporter and London-based WikiLeaks director, Gavin McFadden. The investigator told Fox News Rich provided McFadden with more than 44,000 emails, nearly 18,000 attachments. Rich was murdered near his D.C. home on the morning of July 10th. But his wallet, his cell phone, his watch not taken. WikiLeaks 12 days later published internal emails showing top DNC officials trading ideas on how to hurt Senator Bernie Sanders at the polls, and those emails resulting in the resignation of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the chair of the DNC, and the DNC's 3 top officials because of the obvious conclusion portrayed in those emails between the DNC.
So Lou Dobbs points out that Seth Rich was known to have contacted WikiLeaks. After that contact, DNC emails were transferred. Rich was murdered with no valuables taken, and Julian Assange, we know, has said they did not receive the files from Russia or a state actor. Q responded, "Do you believe in coincidences? The truth will be told." Q. Seth Rich did not die in vain. He did what he thought was the best to expose corruption, and I believe that corruption will be exposed to its fullest. In an interview, Julian Assange did everything but come out and say that Seth Rich was a source of the DNC emails. I'll let you listen to this interview.
Donald Trump has had a disastrous few weeks. If you look at the polls, he needs a miracle. In the American political lexicon, there's such a thing as the October surprise. The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
So the media and corrupt politicians needed a bad guy in the 2016 election, and Russia is always a convenient villain when you're working with CIA operations. And Russia was used to deflect suspicion from their own corruption. Q wrote this: if Russia didn't hack the DNC and it was an insider breach, and U.S. intelligence supports the claim that Russia hacked despite evidence to the contrary, what does that tell you? U.S. government, under POTUS, went through and is still ongoing a major removal and replacement of operation. Traitors everywhere, drain the swamp has real meaning. Mueller and impeachment are in brackets. So the Mueller witch hunt and the impeachment hoax, all meant to slow, delay, and prevent the exposure and prosecution of the crimes of the deep state. Will new articles of impeachment be continually drafted in an effort to hold as ammunition to prevent Senate hearings regarding Democrat Party corruption? So if the Senate decides to go through in January and hold a trial to deal with the articles of impeachment that the House has already voted on, will Nancy Pelosi hold another impeachment vote to continue to try to delay the Senate hearings that Lindsey Graham needs to have to expose corruption? Moves and countermoves, the silent war continues. Q. Removing traitors isn't a fast or easy process, especially those in positions of power who seem like patriots are not patriots. They're actually sleepers. Sleeper is someone who inconspicuously remains dormant in a community until they're activated by a prearranged signal and they perform acts of sabotage, espionage, or terrorism. Bad actors know that Trump has the goods on them. The Mueller hoax and impeachment scam are meant to slow, delay, and prevent the prosecution of good people. People like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer have a lot to lose if the truth ever comes out, so they have a lot of reason to delay justice and these hearings. All right, Q posted this yesterday morning. Follow the guide, Q, and we have this long post from December 22nd of 2017. This actually is a coded outline of the way in which the Spygate operation was set up and how it was deployed. And I'm going to decode this for you, little by little. All right. So, starting at the top. The Democrats' plan in 2016 was to smear Donald Trump's campaign with false allegations of colluding with Russia. The DNC breach and the Steele dossier were the instruments they used to accomplish that objective. So at the top, 1 of 22. I do not know what 1 of 22 means. Although it is interesting that this was posted on the 22nd of 2017. I don't know. We don't have a decode yet on that. So in brackets, we have DNC breach dossier. And then we've got DNC in brackets, SR, Seth Rich, WikiLeaks, Hussein, Obama. DNI director, that would be James Clapper at the time. Clown director, CIA director, John Brennan, sorry. Class 1 through 12, Google, CrowdStrike, DNC. SR 187, MS 13 to 187, DWS, DIR. All right, I'll explain all this as we go. So Bernie Sanders supporter Seth Rich learned that the DNC sold out Bernie and allowed Hillary's campaign to take over the DNC. When that happened, it looks like Seth got a little irritated, leaked the DNC emails to WikiLeaks to expose the corruption. So moving down here, we've got DNC, SR, Seth Rich, and WikiLeaks. They're involved in the first step. And go back to November 2nd, 2017, and you can find articles where Donna Brazile dropped a bombshell where she exposed the fact that Hillary's campaign took over the DNC and essentially prevented any other candidate from getting the Democrat nomination. Moving down the chain here, we've got Hussein, which is Obama. We've got Clapper, Brennan. Now, here's something I want to explain. Q's operation is an open source intelligence operation that is being run by the U.S. military and is being backed by President Trump. Q provides information to us that is open source, information that is readily available. You can find it in the public domain. All right. A lot of the information that Q has is classified. So Q gives us information that is not classified, that's open source, and then provides other hints at information that is still classified, right? That can't be given to people without a security clearance and a need to know. So when you read something that says class 1 through 12, just think, okay, this is a classified bit of data. There are people here that are represented, but their names cannot be divulged, their positions cannot be divulged because that information is still classified, although it may be declassified at some point in the future. So then this part of the stringer, Obama, DNI director, that'd be James Clapper, Brennan, other people in either elected leaders or people in the intelligence agencies, class 1 through 12, Google, CrowdStrike, DNC. All right. So let's start with the CIA. The CIA Umbrage Group uses bits of data as digital fingerprints to give the appearance that a foreign country has engaged in malicious hacking activity when the U.S. is actually the culprit. This was exposed in WikiLeaks Vault 7. If you look up the Umbrage team, this is an article from Security Affairs. They explain how they use bits of computer code that are known to have Russian origins, insert it into files, servers, and to make it look like Russia actually hacked a system when they didn't. Right, so I suspect that the CIA set up Russia to take the blame for the DNC leak by using this technique. How is Google involved? Well, Google Capital helped fund CrowdStrike's startup. They funded them with $100,000 in their initial startup. And Google has a large role to play in a lot of this. Google, because of the way they manipulated search results, also probably manipulating the vote quite extensively. There's a fellow by the name of Epstein, no relation to Jeffrey Epstein, who has spoken extensively on how Google manipulates search results to change election outcomes. Okay, so what about the DNC server and the FBI? Well, CrowdStrike was contracted to examine the DNC server. They determined that Russia had hacked the server, even though the download speeds that they know were used to do the file transfer are way too fast to have been pulled off by a supposed operator, Guccifer, in Eastern Europe. The download speed strongly suggests that it was a direct file transfer using an external drive, probably a thumb drive. The FBI never examined the server, and CrowdStrike actually never filed a final report. They had a couple of draft reports, and the fact that they did not file a final report was exposed in the Roger Stone case. CrowdStrike filed a report with the DOJ saying that they never actually filed a final report. They only had filed draft reports. So FBI never looked at the server. They just took CrowdStrike's word for it, and that's because they didn't want to actually find the truth about what happened. Moving down the stringer, we've got SR 187, MS-13 to 187. So Q has told us that the way this operation went down was that 2 MS-13 members were tasked with killing Seth Rich. 187 is a California penal code for homicide. Those 2 MS-13 members were then killed to hide the evidence and the testimony of what actually happened. That is Q's interpretation of how this went down. Okay. Let's move down to the next section. DWS, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, _ director. So she was the director of the DNC at the time. She helped plan all of this. And when everything went down, she ended up resigning, actually, and I think Donna Brazil took over as chair of the DNC. F-I-D-J assists. That's FBI, Department of Justice, assisted in this operation by creating the insurance policy, which was referred to in Peter Strackley's page texts. Now we're going to look at how the insurance policy played out. So we have this 3-sided diagram here. It looks something like a triangle. If you go back to old Q posts, the 3-sided figure, all right, Q said represents a rock-like structure, and that the Rothschilds, SA, Saudi Arabia, and George Soros were the 3 entities representing the 3 sides of this triangle, and that as of December 7th, this was a structure that controlled organizations, people, governments, churches around the world, and they essentially ran the show. Now, in November of 2017, Saudi Arabia was taken out. The arrest of the Saudi princes changed everything. Q said, present, the diagram only has 2 sides. This was in December of 2017, because Saudi Arabia was removed in November. In December, there's only 2 sides left, Rothschilds and Soros. If you look at, for articles that have to do with the arrest of the Saudi princes, one of the business periodicals, they had a statement from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that listed all of the businessmen and Saudi members of the Saudi royal family who were arrested. There was hundreds of them who had been indicted, who had pled guilty, who had been pled to minor charges, and how those cases were resolved. That was a year after this happened. All right, so that event took out one side of the pyramid. Now, I'm just going to move down the stringer here. So you've got the three-sided triangle, which was actually two-sided at the time. And then you've got Hussein, which is Obama, Hillary, LL, Loretta Lynch, JC, James Comey, AM, Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok. These are the members of the FBI small group and people who, DOJ, Loretta Lynch, Hillary, and Obama, who take orders from George Soros and the Rothschilds. So they gave the orders. Obama and his people and Hillary's people got working on the insurance policy. All right. And of course, if there was an insurance policy, you can bet the deep state will deny it to their last breath. Lisa Page, tweet. This is her pinned tweet on her Twitter page, by the way. There was no insurance policy. Well, of course there wasn't. Anyway, moving down the stringer to the next group. So you've got support of the insurance policy with CS Chuck Schumer, NP Nancy Pelosi, AS Adam Schiff, and then you've got Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, 5, 6. Right? So these are classified people. I don't know who they are. Q doesn't want us to know who they are yet. At some point in the future, we may know who these people are, but right now we don't. The operation was also supported by British intelligence. Hillary campaign paid Christopher Steele. DNC paid. Class 1 through 4, they paid Christopher Steele to create the dossier to start the spying operation. All right. So we know that from the IG report that came out on December 9th, that the Steele dossier was the major evidentiary basis for the warrant to spy on Carter Page. Page's FISA was then used to spy on the entire Trump campaign, since FISA puts anyone who is within 3 circles of contacts or 3 hops away from him under surveillance. So the reason to get the surveillance on Carter Page, Paul Manafort, General Flynn was to make sure everybody related to Trump and the Trump campaign was under surveillance. All right, moving down, we have John Podesta, Holder Relay Special Russia, Eric Holder, I'm guessing. I don't know what this is about with Holder relaying to Russia. I'm not sure. Class 1 through 9, more unidentified people. U.S. Senator, no name, that would be John McCain. Another senator, and we don't know their names, Class 1, Class 2. They were involved in getting the dossier into the hands of the right people. So we know that John McCain, no name, shopped the dossier around, as did other people. I believe, well, we've got Harry Reid. He actually brought the dossier to Comey's attention and asked for an investigation. So other senators were working behind the scenes to make this happen. All right, moving down. JC, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, LL, Hussein, FISA, 2, Presidential Daily Brief. So we've got Comey and Loretta Lynch, JC and LL. They did whatever was necessary to get that FISA warrant approved. The information that came through the surveillance came to the Director of National Intelligence and John Brennan, CIA. They put that information into the Presidential Daily Brief, which was given to Obama and other people in his sphere. The Presidential Daily Brief was actually being read by about 3 dozen people at that time. And FISA 2. So they could indicate that there were multiple FISA warrants. It has been reported that Papadopoulos, Flynn, and Manafort were all under surveillance. So that's what that might refer to. All right, moving down to the final step here. U.S. Senator no name, that's John McCain. He circulated the dossier, shopped it around. BuzzFeed eventually ended up publishing it. Other news outlets then took it and they began publishing it and talking about it. That created a public narrative that Trump was compromised, that Trump was dirty, that he was working with Russia. That set the stage for future attempts to remove him. The entire purpose of this Russia narrative was to set up plausible reasons why Trump needed to be removed from office. So the ramifications of this is that U.S. intelligence agencies illegally spied on presidential candidate, president-elect, and then the sitting president. They spied on Republican members of Congress, Republican senators, and journalists who were friendly to them. All right, that gets us caught up to Q. Thank you all for sharing this on social media. If you've enjoyed this video, you might want to subscribe to my channel. If you ever need to find my videos and can't find them on YouTube or on my podcast, you can always find them on my website, pragmatic.com. And if you would like information on the supernatural, on healing, on hearing God's voice, you might want to check out my website, pragmatic.org. That is the website of my nonprofit ministry. Keep Denise and I in prayer. Keep President in prayer. Keep Q and the team in prayer. Love you all. Take care. And I'll catch you on the next broadcast.